Welcome to the latest episode of Here's What We Know, the podcast of unexpected conversations. As always, thank you to my wonderful partners who make all of this possible. I had a friend tell me about this next guest. He said, here's his name. You should look him up. I think you'll want to talk to him. Massive understatement. He is the chairman at Rimar Capital, the co-founder and CEO of Omnislash. And by the way, he wasn't busy enough. He's become the chairman of YPO, a global leadership community of over 34,000 CEOs. I don't think I've ever had a more impressive intro on this program than Raymond Watt. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you doing?
Well, we were just comparing our California weather stories right
Yes,
now.
it's terrible.
And it's one of those kind of deals that, listen, if you're not from California, please know we pay way too much to live here for this to be happening. We demand perfection when it comes to our weather.
Yeah, we're used to it. Especially, let me tell you who demands more perfection, immigrants like us, that has left our countries to pick the best weather in the world to move to. We demand a lot.
So immigrants like us, because I'm from Alabama and you're in South Africa, it's actually about the same distance from California.
Yeah, pretty much
At
not.
least culturally.
But, culturally, absolutely. What a great and beautiful shock.
What was it like? Because South Africa, I want to know a little bit of your story. Because we get in all the other stuff and everything you do.
Sure.
But you don't meet a lot of people from South Africa. And I'll tell you something. I know this book narrator, and he's really good. He's one of the best at what he does. He was telling me once upon a time, this is a couple of years ago, that the most difficult accent to portray is South African. Because we don't really understand it well enough. And the South African accent, he goes, it's so hard. It's got so many nuances. He goes, French, you just do a little bit of this, and German, it's got like that, but when you go to South Africa, it's just like an amalgamation of so many things.
Yeah, I think that's true, especially, my first language is Afrikaans. And I'm not an English speaker. I started, speaking English when I was an adult. So that even brings another bit of twang to it, because if you have the Dutch heritage, we pronounce everything wrong. My kids here in the US still correct me every single day of my life in the way that I pronounce things.
It's amazing. Now, South Africa, how long of a flight is it to South Africa?
Nothing direct. So the quickest you could do is 6 hours to New York, and then I believe 16 hours to Johannesburg, which makes it a 22-hour flight. It's literally from San Diego, it's the other side of the world. There is no other country that's further away from from San Diego than South Africa. So I chose well when I picked San Diego.
How often do you make it back?
Twice a year. All the family's there. That's why we live, isn't it? For our family.
Yeah. Now, when you're growing up in South Africa, now, if you're a preacher's kid, right?
My dad's still preaching away. He's got a great congregation in South Africa. And yeah, that's my life.
As growing up a preacher's kid in South Africa, what was that like? What did it teach you? How did it shape you besides your faith? If you want to talk about your faith, I'm happy to talk about your faith because I'm a man of faith. But if you just want to talk about how it shaped you, what was that like?
It's such a good question, because I've been thinking about that really a lot the last couple of years. How has the Raymond that I know been shaped by the Raymond that was raised in South Africa? So the first thing is just mom and dad living their life for others, I think was probably the biggest lesson, because I saw it every day, like 24/7. There was never a moment that they stepped out of their calling as they see it. So it was just a great example for me of dedication, showing up as your authentic self, believing in a true north, living for something bigger than yourself. So those were the lessons, which I believe is applicable to anything else, whether you're a startup venture CEO or whether a principal at a school. You need these things. You need this conviction that what you're doing is the right thing and that you're going to show up for it and you're going to be your best for it. So and then the beauty of being raised in Africa as a backdrop and a canvas for me growing up, I think is probably the biggest gifts that I ever could receive.
Were they, and again, I did not, my family was not in we went to church every year, but we weren't in the part of putting church on. Did you learn joy from them? I mean, because, you've seen the scientific studies as well as I do. They just had a thing a couple of weeks ago where doctors came out and said, if you want to improve your physical well-being, find something to be grateful for every day. That's your physical well-being from doctors. Did they have a sense of gratitude? Because if you're going with everyone else, man, that's going to require a lot of you. You get a lot of gifts, but it's going to require a lot.
Yeah, listen. First of all, I think we need to recognize that most religions has a huge component of gratitude built into their doctrine, which I think is beautiful. The beautiful side of it. With mom and dad and my journey specifically is, that's how we were taught to pray. So dad said, we do not pray to ask for things. We pray to recognize and say thank you for things. And I mean, this was, as a family that daily prayed verbally in front of each other, that was practiced. So I didn't know that, I think according to 2024 studies, what my dad actually taught me is to, do intention setting daily in gratitude, because that's how we would call it today. Start your day by calling out those things that you're grateful for, and you are setting a great intention for you to actually complete all of the tasks that's lying ahead of you. I was just taught that's praying, and you better start your day praying. But dad just didn't allow us to pray in terms of, God, please give me this, or I want this, or the world even needs this. Dad taught us to pray. We want to recognize and say thank you for the following things that we have. And we want to make sure that you understand, that we understand that this is special, and that we need to be grateful for it. And that was daily. We did not skip a day. So again, what a great way to bring kids along in reciting. And I mean, in the beginning, it's silly things. I'm glad for my toys, and I'm so thankful that I, can play with my friends. And then starting to realize, like, if you truly make a list of things to be grateful, you will just not stop speaking, because it's tremendous the amount of things that we need to be grateful for in our lives.
You were saying, man, if you have truly things about gratitude, you just won't stop speaking. You'll always be grateful. How old are your kids?
My girl is 16, my boy 14 now.
Has that been life lessons for them? Because I want to hear your answer, because it leads me to something else.
Yeah, listen. So my kids are, what do we know as parents? We can only mimic that we have seen, isn't it? I mean, we try and infuse ourselves into it. But their faith is a huge part of my children's lives. And it's just because that's how I grew up. So my kids are church kids. They are in the teen worship band, and they go to youth. And listen, that's our choice. I do not think this is something that everybody needs to do. And I'm definitely not a zealot that everybody needs to believe the same thing. I think, we live in a beautiful world with so many opportunities to be good people. But that's their life and their story. They are focused on sharing their lives with others, and they are showing up to service and to serve other people, which I think is the basis of gratitude.
I'm fascinated by that answer, and I'll tell you what my second part of this was. I don't know. I can imagine, as a preacher's kid, there wasn't tens of thousands of dollars lying around just to do what you wanted.
No, the opposite. Especially not in South Africa. It might be different in some other countries, but in Africa, there is no monetary benefit to being a preacher.
And that's the case of most small communities, right? And I say that because I grew up, I'm not looking for any, hey, look at that. I grew up desperately poor. And I had this conversation with my 14-year-old the other day. He was trying to do something, and he didn't really put the effort into it, and it didn't happen, and he got angry. And I'm like, here's the problem I think I have with you. And it's not a problem. I almost feel like there's some things that I had better than you. Because when it came to the choices in life, I walked on the cliff, right? I mean, I could see the abyss because I was walking on the cliff. You are far away from the cliff, and it's just a rumor, right? It's not a part of your momentary daily life. So you don't have that sense of urgency that I had. And in some cases, even though you had more than I could ever dream of, and let's be clear, I take that as one of God's biggest blessings to me, that I get to let you have this life. There's the other part that scares me that goes, boy, you need that sense of urgency. So, and that would come from gratitude too. And I try to press that to them all the time. I want you to be grateful. If you could be grateful and understand what other other people's days are like, that you can't even wrap your head around, maybe that would get. And for you, I'm not trying to embarrass you. You've had a lot of success, which is not the way you were raised. How are you walking that tightrope?
I think first, I think internally, the word success is a really heavy one. And I think at this wonderful ripe age where I'm at now, I've lived through the understanding of the smoke and mirrors, maybe of that word. So that word doesn't mean that much to me. What I can do is, yes, I provide for my kids. I'm very proud that I could bring them to the US. It's one of the biggest dreams that we had for our children to bring them. And we moved when they were 1 and 3 years old, and they are now proud Americans. Those are the things that I would say I accomplished as a parent. I would not even really bring the word success to it. But here's what I can tell you what self-actualization does help us do. It's I can travel with my kids. I can show them things across the world and across the globe that informs them in a much better way than I do, to compensate, because they will never grow up like I did. They will not be barefoot going to school like I did in Africa. But I can provide them with just as much opportunity to see and experience and feel the plight of humans around them. And I think we have an obligation, if we are actualized in a different way than we grew up, to still thoughtfully apply that actualization to the same objective of expose. I had the benefit of going with my dad and preaching to, crowds and singing in front of them, standing on stage and just sort of living that, what I would call life of privilege. Even though you don't have anything, you still realize you have so much more than others. And I think that is the lesson. That there's the point there. And that's why I like that we started in gratitude, because that's what gratitude tells you. Doesn't matter where I think I am. Once I spend time on it, I realize how good and blessed I am. So we have more ways of teaching. I think it's more difficult. It's difficult on the west coast of America teaching this than it is sort of in the plains of Africa. But we have other opportunities as well. Great schools that we can expose them to, great learning, travel, etc. So we just need to be conscious about it.
When did you first have the desire for business? And how long did it take you to figure out that you understood the concept? And I say that I played golf one time with a guy who was a pro, and they're so good. And he goes, what you have to understand is I went to the driving range with my father when I was 7 years old. And within about 30 swings, I was hitting a pitching wedge 60 yards because I intrinsically understood how to do it. So that's, and I'm like, that's interesting. I think there are some things where you intrinsically understand. Now, you may not, he wasn't Tiger Woods, but he was above average. And I guess that's my question to you. When you started, was there always a desire? And when did you realize that you were above average? And again, I'm not embarrassing you. I'm just saying you're good at what you do.
I'll try to be really honest about this, because it's, all of us have ego. I can definitely make a list of accomplishments that I feel proud of, that I think I could make a decent case why I should feel proud of that. I, funnily enough, do not think I'm really a good businessman. I mean, that's a whole conversation for another podcast. But I have this, what I learned from mom and dad is that I have a desire to help people actualize themselves. And there's a huge part of business that's just linked to the actualization of other humans, whether it's your clients or whether it's your employees or whether it's your shareholders. If you truly are passionate about them finding success and them getting to the point where they want to be, it sort of makes you a goodish businessman. Think about it. If you have a product, but your desire is truly that those people that are using the product should be delighted by your product, and it sort of drives you, it makes you move and make decisions in a specific way. So I have a deep love of humans and people. I really want to see them happy. I don't like it when people are unhappy. If you really don't want your clients to be unhappy, and if you don't want your employees to be unhappy, and you don't want your investors to be unhappy, you're sort of treading the line towards being a good businessman. And I think it's more the containers that I created or the boundaries that I created for me in business that helped me to move forward than being a mastermind in business. I still learn from so many people. And that's why I love YPO as an organization. I honestly believe we are 35,000 members now. I'm just one of the 35,000. And I sort of genuinely feel like, 33,000 of them at least are doing way better than I'm doing. So there's always the opportunity to be brought up and learn. Especially on the education side, I feel like where I'm lacking is what I love about American businessmen specifically is like the wide range of knowledge that they have, from financial instruments to employee benefits to just, I keep on learning. I didn't even knew this. I remember the first time when I spoke to a buddy and he said, I give all my employees healthcare for their fur babies. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've never even heard that sentence before. And I realized that by looking at the whole body person of people working for us and making sure that those people and creatures that are important to them are part of my strategy, I'm learning that from other people. These are not my brilliant ideas. And that's why the idea of peer learning and sitting and listening actively to people around you and listening and learning from them, which is the base of YPO, is why I love this organization, because it helps me to become better. But I would definitely not list businessman as one of my greatest skills.
Well, that's surprising. I think the world would. I think you may not, but I think the world would. I mean, just based on the evidence, right? But I'm interested because when you hear YPO, and we say 35,000 now CEOs. Can you explain when you hear global leadership? What does that mean? How can you're explaining this to my sister in Alabama, and she's going, what? What does that mean?
Let's make it simple. YPO specific as an organization started 75 years ago, almost on the East Coast of America. A gentleman with the name Ray Hickok that said, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing. I have a business, I have employees, but I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. And I'm going to ask some other people. And they were a bunch of people that got into the room and they said, I'm going to share my own life with you. See if there's something you can learn from me. And then I'll do the same and see if we can become better. And the mission statement was born, better leaders. So YPO wants to make better leaders. So what does that mean? It's simply put, if you look at the 35,000 companies that's in, CEOs with their companies that's in YPO across 148 countries, by the way, about 22 million employees across those 35,000 businesses. If betterment is truly achievable by listening and learning and being vulnerable and being open, it should affect your business. Hopefully 22 million employees, their families, their lives. It should affect your children, your spouse, your partner, your broader family, your cousins. It should affect the community that you live in. How do you show up as a home at the homeowners association? Do you show up with empathy and care and ideas of how to make things better? And that's it. That's where we say leadership, true leadership, if you develop yourself and if you're in this position of influence, that it should result in betterment in many, many different ways. And that's the concept of where leadership is actually impactful. We use phrases like business as a sense of good, because all of us need an economic instrument where we earn money so that we can provide, so that we can just live on this rock that's floating through space. It's sort of a very simple premise. We need, if you look at Maslow, we need food and shelter. And then we need to keep ourselves busy with things that we like. And we need to be, since we are conscious humans, we need to keep our minds busy with things that sort of thrill and excite us. But all of that in the current world system needs economy to facilitate that purpose. And leadership, business leadership, because this is specifically what YPO is. It's only a bunch of CEOs with businesses coming together. Business leadership is definitely one of those mechanisms of hopefully making the world better.
Well, I find it fascinating. And I was literally at a networking event earlier this morning, and I was saying, I'm going to talk to Raymond Watt at YPO. And one of the guys go, you're really? I mean, he couldn't believe it. He was like, you're really? Yeah, really am. And he goes, they're amazing. And I'm like, wow. that's cool. And I said, well, I can't wait to share that with him. And he goes, tell him I said, John said hi. I said, does he know you? And he goes, no.
There's surely definitely a lot of Johns in YPO. Listen, the compliment that you are giving is not towards an organization. The compliment that you are giving is towards a collection of humans. Because YPO is merely a connection or collection of 36,000 people across the globe, men and women really working hard to be better. Because that's the premise of why you join YPO. If you don't want to be better, don't join. If you're not intellectually curious, if you don't want to share yourself, if you don't want to be vulnerable, there's other things that you can do. But so I'll take the compliment not as Raymond or as YPO or as the chairman of YPO, but I'll take it as a compliment to the desire of 35,000 leaders across this globe that really wants to make sure that we leave this world in a better state than we found it.
I just thought to myself, you're from South Africa, and you could tell everybody, no, it's Raymond, just to mess with people. So that's the way we pronounce it in South Africa. Like Draymond Green, you could be Raymond Watt.
In this beautiful country, everybody calls me Ray. I introduce myself as Raymond, and the next second I become Ray. So I'm fine.
I'm going to plead with Ray to join me back again when he finds time. But there's a couple of things I just wanted to hit before you go, because I saw you're a member of the Television Academy. Was that right?
Yes. So I dabbled like any good immigrant. I mean, I was as a child fascinated by Hollywood. I mean, who isn't? And I had the opportunity when I came to the States to really do a couple of really interesting projects, TV projects, on a couple of shows, and some that I actually sort of created and successfully sold off. And that's that's the part of being a multidimensional human. I feel there's a creative part to me. The one beautiful thing about this country is if you dream it, you can really achieve it. And being on the West Coast, I met some beautiful and wonderful people that took me on that journey, and had the opportunity to design, create, and establish some TV shows that made it to the small screen. And yeah, it's hopefully something in the future that I can sink my teeth into as well. But it really takes dedication. So cannot do it as a side gig.
Can I ask do we know some of the TV shows? Or if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine too. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm just asking.
The one that I have full credit on from creating to establishing and successfully selling is called Cast Me. You can go and look at those episodes, and it was a take on sort of idols. But if you're an actor and you are going into a audition room to find a part, and how did that play out? So it's a fun, only one season that we could sell successfully, but we did. And that was the one that started as ideation from a whiteboard up until completion, and there's a real life lesson if you take something from thought to execution. So please don't judge me by it, but please go and have a look.
What are your guilty pleasures? What were the TV shows that influenced you?
First of all, we didn't watch TV. Dad was really strict about that. So a fun fact about me is the first time I went to the movies was when I was in college, because just we're not allowed to go to the movies when I was a child. But the TV shows that influenced me that I did get to watch sort of secretly were all science fiction. So it's from The $1 Million Man to Star Trek. To Alpha 99, these really to Thundercats, anything that was in science fiction world sort of shaped me. And I think in my later life, I found true joy in reality shows like what's the one where they race around the world? I just love that show so much.
Amazing Race,
because I feel like you get to know people on such an intimate level. So yeah, I when I get a chance, I like to watch TV. There's not a lot of chance for it, unfortunately.
We're in that same stage of life. We just don't have a lot of chance to watch TV, but we make time because I have a 14 and a 12-year-old. We make time to watch Amazing Race and Survivor. I mean, we build our week around it.
I think I've watched 20 seasons of Survivor, and it's just those are the good ones.
It's amazing, and the kids get into it because they start understanding the dynamics of personal interaction. Sure. Right?
Human interaction, yeah.
Yeah, and who people see, especially as a threat. right? Because that's the big thing they're learning on Survivor now. Well, so-and-so was so nice. They got it. And in the gist of the game, that you don't want to go to the final tribal with somebody who's awesome and nice and everybody likes. You want to take the person everybody hates to the final tribal so they'll vote for you.
Yeah.
And so
it's a real human strategy game. Yeah, no, I know those are the things that I mean, there's storytelling, I think, helps us all. I mean, whether it's, as we spoke about, religion, which is really narrative driven and storytelling driven, whether we are selling something to our clients, whether we are enjoying something on TV, it's all about the story. And I think narrative is what drive humanity. And the better we can understand which stories people connect to, the better, probably we can use the word successful, the more successful we become.
I like that. Now, Raymond, I'm going to beg I'm going to beg that you come back and do this. I am so fascinated by everything that you do and you've done because I'm fascinated by your journey, and there's so much. And listen, we can go down the rabbit hole of reality TV and science fiction TV.
Come on, and science fiction. Gary, I think I should come to your studio, and I think we should sit in your studio, and that'll be the best way to do this.
How about if I do a mobile studio and we find some place that serves drinks?
Well, as long as they serve a good coffee or a good milkshake, because I have never drank. I
didn't say a cocktail. I didn't say a cocktail.
But I'm up for good coffee, which I love. And then, of course, you can see by my body shape, I do love a good milkshake. So, let's...
Are you really want to talk to me about coffee right now? As if those of you who are listening on the internet don't see my 28-ounce coffee mug.
That's how we make the days work. So Gary, let's schedule another one. It was such a pleasure meeting you. I think Brian told me all the right things about you. So let's schedule another one. And it was fascinating just getting to know you a little bit as well.
I can't wait. Raymond Watt.
If you're looking for Western wear, you need to find Winchester Western Wear at 1185 South Bascom Avenue in San Jose. You're not going to find the perfect outfit at the mall or the outlets. Come to the place with over 40 years of experience and all the top name brands like Ariat, Justin, Stetson, Tony Lama, and more. When you go to the great country shows at Shoreline, SAP, Club Rodeo, or Clola Shans, you'll be looking your best. From boots to hats to everything in between, with a knowledgeable staff that'll make the entire experience a fun one. Find them online at winchesterww.com. That's winchesterww.com. Or put this in your maps, 1185 South Bascom Avenue in San Jose. Winchester Western Wear. They'll help you find a look you love. Let's talk about the inevitable. End of life. Once I leave this earth, I can't do anything for my loved ones, but I've just learned by pre-planning a funeral or cemetery in advance takes the guesswork out when death occurs suddenly and your mind is clouded with grief. Dignity Memorial can help. My friend Tina Skurla pre-plans funeral and cemetery arrangements so loved ones don't have to. They're North America's largest provider of funeral, cremation, and cemetery services. They're dedicated to getting every detail right, and they do that by listening to you. I know it's a hard subject, but I also know we all see the sense and value of what Dignity Memorial does. Use the promo code Gary to get 25% off at Willow Glen Funeral Home. Reach out to my friend Tina Skurla today. She's committed to helping families not go through the tragedy of loss alone. Click on the link, use the promo code Gary, or email her at dmppatinaskurla.com or call 408-398-7050.